What is going on, everyone? Nostalgia925 coming at you with another Explaining Digimon episode. I firmly believe that many wanted me to tackle this particular Digimon, Agumon Bond of Courage. Boy oh boy, when I asked your opinions in the Nostalgia925 community page, I quickly understood that many under you guys did not like it at all. From the design to even the name. What I liked is that we were given big and elaborated answers which totally made sense. So without further ado, let us analyze Agumon in its new form and understand what it is all about. We'll take a look at the origins, some theories about it, and more. There will be a couple of spoilers ahead. Minor spoilers, yes, but spoilers nonetheless, so maybe it is best to first watch the movie. Anyway, let us hope you will enjoy this one. Who or what is Agumon Bond of Courage? From the looks, we can see that it resembles a man encased in an orange armor, emblazoned with neon blue patterns like that of a Greymon. But is it a Greymon? It is called Agumon after all. It might be best that we first get to the basics, the origins. That will clear it up. Agumon Bond of Courage first appeared in the sequel to Digimon Adventure 3, in the movie called Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. A movie that was very well received, it had good grades and gave us fans some new material to discuss. Always a pleasure to see how the Digimon universe gets bigger and bigger. The title of the movie tells what the movie is all about. Kizuna stands for bond. They really put the emphasis on the bond between Digimon and humans, and it is that same bond that drives the plot. In the movie you can see how a deep love between a human and a Digimon takes shape, and that bond can sometimes become so strong that some fall victim to it. I am referring to Manoa Bellucci, one of the main antagonists, a child prodigy and associate professor at the Bellica University in New York. At the age of 9, she got a partner Digimon, Morphomon, a Digimon I can't wait to explore. They spent the next 5 years together as the best of friends. They got to know each other, they cared for one another, they looked out for one another. One day, Manoa came with some good news she couldn't wait to share with a partner. She told that she had skipped enough grades to be allowed to start college at the age of 14. It is quite a success, however, the good news was met with a sad consequence. Unwillingly and unknowingly, it caused the separation with her Digimon partner since the possibilities for her future were closed when she became adult. That separation caused a major heartbreak, which is understandable. Having to suddenly lose someone you care deeply for, that can become quite unbearable and in some cases traumatizing. You won't necessarily heal from that. What you can do is find ways to deal with said loss, and in the case of Manoa Bellucci, she spent the next 8 years researching Digimon and spent years trying to restore life to Morphomon, even if she failed every single time. Flash forward. An aurora happened in the United States and Morphomon's data suddenly reconfigured into a Digi-Egg. Manoa claimed that both her and Morphomon were communicating telepathically and that she was told to use her data to help save all the Digidestined in the world from having to suffer the same fate they had to suffer. Motivated by this abrupt separation years ago and now united once more via telepathy, Manoa decided to reconfigure Morphomon's data, turning it into the artificial Digimon Eosmon, who was then mass reproduced to help in her goal of kidnapping the consciousness of every Digidestined in the world. The consciousness of all kidnapped Digidestined would be sent to the Neverworld, where they would be de-aged, brainwashed, and trapped in their own memories, never having to be separated from their partners. Don't confuse Neverworld with Neverland. That is a location where Petermon tempts young and childish Digimon that refuse to digivolve to live an isolated life. Flash forward. A fight ensues in the Neverworld where thousands of Eosmon fuse together into Eosmon's megaform against Omnimon, who was defeated. Omnimon may be powerful, but sometimes even its powers do not suffice, which I personally like. I guess I am still heartbroken about Nidogmon's defeat because I sincerely don't believe Omnimon was more powerful or significantly more powerful than this Dark Dragon. Now, Omnimon being defeated made our heroes almost desperate because there seemed to be no other possibility to help their friends and defeat the menace. They were in a desperate state, however, there was one final option that would come with a cost. You see, I have yet to explain how the Digivice functions, but in the movie we got to learn something new and very interesting. The Digivice, which is short for digital device, is a physical manifestation of the bond between a Digidestined and their partner Digimon. It is primarily used to empower the Digidestined's partner Digimon through emotional energy that will then be used as fuel to start the process of Digivolution. There is another important point to make when discussing the Digivice. You see, the Digidestined from Season 1 were brought to the digital world with a specific purpose. They had to save the digital world. Now, the problem is that you can't just give power to anyone in the hopes that the person would do good. Don't forget what we learned from Spider-Man: with great power comes great responsibility. In order to be sure that the Digidestined would not deviate from their main tasks, they had to fulfill a certain requirement in order to enable their partner Digimon to digivolve in more powerful forms. Individually, they were expected to focus on certain virtues. I'm talking about courage, friendship, love, sincerity, knowledge, reliability, hope, and light. It is because of the courage displayed by Tai and thanks to his Digivice that Agumon could digivolve into a new form, a legendary final evolution called Agumon Yuki no Kizuna, or in other words, Agumon Bond of Courage or Bond of Bravery in the American English version of Digimon Re-Arise and in the Digimon card game. Now, I know that courage and bravery are used interchangeably as if they were synonyms, but there's a difference. Terminology is always important, so I'd like to clarify it first before moving ahead. The main thing that really sets the mental state of bravery apart is a lack of fear. The origin of the word courage is distinct and separate from that of bravery. It's more of a virtue. Courage doesn't necessarily come with an absence of fear. In fact, being courageous normally involves taking action in spite of fear. It's knowing full well that something will be dangerous or hard, but doing it anyway. Bravery tends to be more spontaneous, whereas courage comes with a high degree of choice and forethought. There is the difference between bravery and courage. Always be careful with your terminology. I learned that back in university when I had to write papers and a master's thesis. Now, to add to the terminology, here's a comment written by Nagato Yamiyo, who wrote the following about Agumon Bond of Courage. Here I quote, "I hate the name. I wish the name had simply been Kizuna Greymon. Calling such a huge Digimon Agumon just doesn't feel right. And Bond of Bravery, which should have been Courage, is a mouthful. They could have kept it as Kizuna Greymon." Nagato, I agree with you 100%. Just by looking at the design, it is clearly another Greymon variant. So indeed, it should have been called Greymon, yet we are here calling it Agumon, which might cause some confusion and in some cases, even new theories. But look, my biggest guess is that they gave it the name Agumon because at the end of the day, the partners of the Digidestined are those Digimon that are at the rookie level. Gabumon, Agumon, Palmon, you know who I'm talking about. They are the Digimon with who the humans are bonding. Never forget that these partner Digimon are digivolving via the power of the Digivice, which is not a natural way to digivolve, it is an artificial one. That's why they always end up reverting back to their rookie forms. To give a proper example, Tai is not really bonding with Greymon because his partner Agumon never naturally digivolved into a Greymon. If it was the case, it would have stayed like that permanently. You see, when Agumon is digivolving into a Greymon via the use of a Digivice, that same Greymon would not have the same experience and knowledge in comparison to another Greymon who came to be via the natural way of digivolving, meaning through time and battle experience. In other words, sure, Agumon Bond of Courage took the form of an adult Digimon, but in mind and spirit, it is still the rookie Agumon that is simply being guided by his human partner. Take Tai's sister Carrie as another example, who is partnered to the champion Digimon Gatomon, and you'll get what I mean. We say Carrie and Gatomon, and not Carrie and Salamon, which is Gatomon's prior form, because Salamon naturally digivolved into Gatomon. So it is with Gatomon that Carrie is bonding and not its other forms. and because this movie was all about the bond between the Digidestined and the partner Digimon, I certainly do understand why they opted for the name Agumon instead of Greymon, even if everything about the design is Greymon. And speaking of, the following was written about Agumon Bond of Courage, here I quote: "The indomitable courage of its partner turned into hot flames that spurt out from its whole body and appears as proof of their deep trust. It has a deeper understanding of humans owing to the long amount of time they spent together. And so this evolved form has also taken on a near humanoid shape. There is a price to pay with this form. You see, when Agumon and Gabumon digivolved into their new forms, you can see that the Digivice was starting to crack, possibly even making it unusable anymore. This might mean, or probably means, that these new forms can only be used once. This could also mean that they would never be able to digivolve via the use of their attributed Digivice, because normally only the designated owner of the Digivice can use it to digivolve their Digimon. Sure, you can still borrow a Digivice to use it for its other functions, but normally it can't be used to digivolve another Digimon. Even if there was one exception. That was when Meiko Mochizuki's Digivice was used to trigger Omnimon's Digivolution to its Merciful mode, despite her not being partnered with any of the component Digimon. Wyvern Dukemon wrote the following: "To me, the bond of forms are an example of how many view the concept of evolution as a whole. As a species grows, they become more humanoid, such is the case for the perceived evolution of modern men. This Agumon, along with subsequent Digimon, showcase their deep emotional and spiritual connection with their human partners by taking that very concept along with the virtue of their human, their crests, and evolving to a sort of future form, something surpassing its own natural evolution. I do not personally see this as a natural evolution, however, it is more of a limit breaker, a last-ditch effort to end a fight that possibly has lasting ramifications. Consider its singular media appearance outside the Re-Arise game. The two bond forms very swiftly took down Eosmon, yes. However, their partners' Digivices cracked due to the sheer amount of power released at that moment. If not for the already prevalent countdown, there may have been some other drawback, perhaps limiting or even negating the traditional Digivolution. And that is a thing I found very interesting. It is the fact that the Digivice began to break. It shows that there is a price to pay to this form. Yes, it might be one of Agumon and Gabumon's strongest forms, but the conditions are strict if one were to successfully summon this form. First, the Digimon has got to be linked to a Digidestined with a Digivice. Then, something must trigger that Digivolution. Question remains what? What level of a threat are we talking about? And to finish, as the Digivice began to break, I assume that this form can only be used once and there is a time limit like every other artificially digivolved Digimon. After the Digivolution, chances are that the Digimon will not be able to digivolve anymore via the use of the Digivice. This would mean that it will have to take the natural route, which is much longer and much more difficult, but also permanent once digivolved. These conditions, if they are true, and indeed a requirement, then I'd say that I really do like the concept behind these forms, because it expands the possibilities in the Digimon universe, and it gives more lore to an already big universe. And speaking of lore, Ultra Lucario 91 wrote the following: Agumon Bond of Bravery, in terms of lore, has a deeper understanding of humans due to the long relationship with its partner, referencing the movie Last Evolution Kizuna, and so Agumon has taken in a humanoid form. This Digivolution can be seen as the end result of limitless potential between Agumon and its partner. That implies that Agumon in its Bond of Bravery form proves to be superior to other possible final forms like War Greymon or Blitz Greymon. Ultra Lucario did well to compare War Greymon to Agumon Bond of Courage. I think that we should discuss this comparison in a separate video because there are a whole lot of question marks. For example, Omnimon wasn't able to defeat Eosmon, but Agumon Bond of Courage along with Gabumon Bond of Friendship could deal the finishing blow. Wouldn't that also mean that they are either as strong if not stronger than Omnimon? I always thought that the sum was greater than the parts. I personally believe that there are more than one way to look at power in Digimon. Power can mean that a Digimon has specific skills that are effective towards a particular Digimon. Power can also mean more raw power, And maybe a Digimon has more intel, giving it an advantage over another. And there is a comment that will better explain what I mean. I will remind you of that in just a moment, Ultra Lucario. In the meanwhile, let us see what Agumon in this new mode is all about. It is a Mega level unidentified Digimon. The nature of its character is also questionable, as its attribute is partly unidentified and free. Free is an attribute usually seen in ancient Digimon and existed before the other attributes, meaning data, vaccine, virus, and variable. So this adds to the mysteriousness of the Digimon, because it's hard to tell how it would behave if it were not in a battle situation. Speaking of ancient Digimon, here is a comment of Radamap, who wrote the following: "This Bond evolution, in my headcanon, is Agumon tapping to its ancient bloodline, the ancient Greymon bloodline. It sort of looks like Agunimon. As they are both of the Greymon species bloodline, we can and probably will see many similarities between both Agumon Bond of Courage and Agunimon. So Radamap, it is actually very good that you brought up Agunimon, because it gave me a reason to also analyze it and look for other similarities. You see, both Agunimon and Agumon Bond of Courage have a theme that always gets back in their attacks. Let me explain. Agunimon has attacks called Pyro Punch and Pyro Tornado. These attacks are also called Burning Salamander and Salamander Break. Agumon Bond of Courage has one attack called Striking Salamander Slash, which are high intensity red lasers emitted from the tips of the claws that burn the enemy. So the salamander as a concept always gets back in both attacks of Agunimon and Agumon Bond of Courage, proving once more, aside of the physical traits, that they are indeed of the same bloodline, that they are indeed linked. Now, other attacks of Agumon Bond of Courage are the Red Reamer, where it uses the spear on its tail as a weapon to skewer the enemy with it, and last confirmed attack is the Brave Gaia, where it changes the flames of courage it bears into an ultra high temperature energy shot and then releases it. Ultra Lucario 91 said that Agumon Bond of Courage's Gaia Brave attack sounds like its own version of Wargreymon's Gaia Force attack, that instead of taking energy from the atmosphere, takes energy from the flames of courage. I would say that no matter how you look at it, these attacks are linking both Wargreymon and Agumon Bond of Courage. This reminds me that I thoroughly explained in the Explaining Digimon Attacks episode how deadly Wargreymon's Gaia Force is. It is a series where we go through some of the Digimon moves to see how powerful they are. Anyway, the link can be found in the description box. Now, for those who wondered how powerful Agumon Bond of Courage would be, Wyvern Dukemon blessed us with a solid answer to it. Ultra Lucario, here is the comment I was talking about. It goes as follows. I would like to touch upon my own thoughts in regards to the overall power of this form. Being a form outside of the norm, it is difficult to place a level and how strong they are without personal bias. However, if one considers the one fight as well as their abilities demonstrated in the trading card game, the bond of characters are of the ultra or super ultimate caliber. However, I do not believe them individually stronger than Omegamon. Rather, I see them as potentially faster and, at the point they appeared in the film, wise to their opponent's tactics. The biggest reason why Omegamon lost in that fight is a lack of knowledge against Eosmon hacks. The goddess was being powered by the brainwashed children. The statement Menoa makes, along with the children laughing with the sound of the homing laser attack, makes me believe the possessed children make it stronger, along with concern for his partners just being shot. Please Digimon, do this more. Targeting tamers is a viable evil Digimon strategy and I love it. When the fight resumed with Eosmon and the Bond forms were born, there were 1. Fewer possessed children, 2. The humans were not in danger of being targeted, 3. Both Digimon knew what Eosmon could do and were able to properly counter, and 4. Instead of 1 Digimon of the super ultimate level, there were now 2. Hopefully that all makes sense. I think that this is a fair and solid assessment of the power displayed by Agumon and Gabumon in the new Bond mode. If there is a thing I always enjoyed about Digimon, is that it is not because a Digimon gets a new form that it is per se much stronger in comparison to other Digimon, either at the same level and sometimes also at inferior levels. Just a small comparison, we do know the options Agumon has in his Bond of Courage form. But this form does not carry Wargreymond's Dramon destroyers, the armor that would give Wargreymon an edge in a fight against one of the Dramon species. That is not an advantage this new form would have. So again, Digimon is much more complex than just having a new form and have it become the new be-all, end-all, even if the Digimon franchise has been guilty of those nefarious practices, which I do not like. The video is about to come to an end, but I would like to share a few things before bringing it to a close. It would be too easy to just say that the idea behind the Agumon Bond of Courage is a great one. That is why I love to ask your opinions, especially when they are elaborated, because I truly want the Digimon developers to somehow hear your opinions and hopefully learn from it, because I really do want the franchise to grow. Random to you one wrote the following about Agumon Bond of Courage: ugly. I get its reference to the bond Agumon formed with a human, but still, we've explored similar concepts in other Digimon series and they've all looked much more appealingly designed. I would have much preferred a focus on the cast as a whole instead of just Matt and Tai again. Emma Rinsola wrote something very interesting about this focus towards other members in the cast. The following was written: I would like to see a Biyomon bond of love the most. Agumon and Gabu always get a special treatment. At least in the movie it has a reason, because both were the only one that had little time left, but it still annoys me. Giving both Agu and Gabu another special treatment is just sad when you have so much potential with the other ones. And yes, a Kizuna Palmon would most likely look like Rosemon or Lilymon or every plant women, but think about the potential of Kizuna Tentomon or Kizuna Gomamon. This is a complaint that already existed way back and will probably increase more and more as long as the Digimon developers keep on going the same route by giving the two Digimon mascots the same privilege. Digimon has so much potential in terms of its characters, and I remember I have always liked Tentomon a lot, along with its human partner Izzy. Truth is that I felt more connected to these two than I did with either of the Digimon mascots and their human partners. And sure, maybe Tentomon does not belong to the most bankable Digimon out there. From an economic perspective, I can definitely understand the why behind the attention given to Agumon and Gabumon. It's just that it is simply too sad, in my opinion, that so many interesting Digimon do not get nearly enough attention to even create a small shift in interest and curiosity, despite them being as interesting as Agumon and Gabumon. Which is why many will keep on complaining that the other Digimon do not get the right attention at all. And I'm not just talking about those Digimon that are being partnered to humans, but other Digimon as well. This is one of the reasons I love stories like The Lord of the Rings. I love how most characters are fleshed out and given proper care. Same goes with One Piece. In fact, they really did outperform themselves by stretching many characters in terms of lore, stories and motivation, making this universe feel way bigger. What bothers me is that Digimon is perhaps the one franchise that has the potential to be much bigger than these two franchises combined. I mean, it is still a universe that is connected to the internet, linking it to all types of events and characters and more. Just look at the potential. We have a Medabot Digimon. Medabot is a complete different franchise. We have Digimon inspired by all types of religions, may it be Buddhist, Christianity, Judaism and more. We have Digimon representing mythological creatures. We have Appmon. These are not digital monsters but application monsters. The list goes on. Digimon, as far as I can tell, has infinite potential. To get there, I'd say that it would be good to start by giving more attention to more Digimon and flesh them out. I have a last comment that is more a critique towards the movie Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna. A comment so interesting I had to include it in the video. Andres Marrero wrote the following: the movie itself has a lot of problems, from copying concepts from Digimon 3, including the Digidestined that never acknowledged death, or what counts for it with Digimon since they can't die, the obsession with Matt and Tai which led to the destruction of characters like Sora, and the whole concept of the movie falls apart when you look at the O2 ending. They are no longer Digidestined, but that doesn't mean their partner disappears and that you can't go back into the digital world. Hey guys, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Even if Agumon in its Bond of Courage mode did receive mixed reactions, I'm still happy that it was brought to existence because it expands the Digimon world. I want them to add new mysteries and new lore, so I would personally happily welcome this new form while still remaining with the same wish, give the other partner Digimon as much care as is given to Agumon and Gabumon, and also give more care to the other Digidestined. I mean, I made a whole video about the Indian Digidestined Mina, showing how much potential she has as a character despite the fact that she might have appeared only 3 times, I think 5 times at best. Link of this video is in the description box. Let me take advantage of this moment to properly thank you all for your input in the NostalgiaNat5 community page. Really, these were great comments and definitely helped me to make this video. I say thank you to my Patreon followers and their continued financial support. I truly appreciate it and really love your presence here. We will grow bigger and bigger, that I'm sure of. Make sure to write your opinions down in the comment section along with a like for the YouTube algorithm. Make sure to subscribe, and in case you are new, know that all my videos are placed in particular Digimon playlists which are always updated. That way you can catch up on the newer and oldest videos.